If you're looking for a tour of downtown Nashville, you got lots of options. In fact, we've featured several on our program. Well, Danielle Allen took a trek through Music City, not in search of country music artist or ghost, but rather activists that changed the world for the better.
The fight for civil rights echoed through the South in the 1960s, and it was heard loud and clear in Nashville. Those stories of trials and triumphs are retold in books and documentaries.
All right, let's rock and roll, guys.
But there's something about physically walking down the path of history, and that's where United Street Tours come in.
All right, I'm going to talk about this statue. I'll stand in the mud so you won't have to.
Shaquita Patterson is the founder of United Street Tours. Her mission is simple: educate through storytelling.
They looked around and they saw that no one was guarding the gate. So they went inside. The thing that makes a good story is having one character and telling the life of that character, the ups and the downs, right? And because all of our stories don't necessarily have happy endings, it's very, very important for us to take you on a journey to how it got that way. Feel free to have a seat, guys.
Come on, guys.
I'm going to talk right from here.
We took a journey with Shaquita on her African American culture tour. She talked about people and events from the 1700s all the way to the 1960s. She also does a tour for civil rights and a Nashville Black Wall Street tour. Each one of these is different, but they all serve the same purpose.
The purpose of the tours is to unite people, right? So oftentimes when people hear Black history, it's, oh, that history. But really, Black history is America's history, right? So United just came from this whole idea of telling Black history to provide a unified America and not just singling Black history out and saying, this is your history, this is my history. But when we embrace all history, then we have a holistic and a well-rounded view.
The idea for United Street Tours came about when Shaquita was a dean at a local school. She was helping students do a Black history project, but there was one small problem.
I was very, very excited to get the students involved in planning Black history, taking charge of what the theme was going to be for Black History Month. So just went around, talked to students, interviewed them, and everyone was excited to plan, to get on board. But what I started to realize is that they didn't know much about Nashville's Black history or about Black history stories to plan anything outside of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., right? So Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a lot of us learn about him in school, but outside of that, they haven't been exposed to a wide variety of Black history stories.
That experience gave Shaquita an idea. Why not start a business that'll make those little-known stories well-known? One that lets you take a close-up look at the past. And from there, United Street Tours was born.
Before starting this, I spent a ton of time searching the internet, reading tons of books, and just trying to pull out information that I thought would connect with people. So after, I don't know how many hours of research, right? Something was missing for me. It's a lot of stuff that wasn't adding up. So what I started doing was reaching out to local history professors at colleges here. And I just started talking to people, just engaging in conversation. Tell me your perspective on this story. Okay, this is what I read. What do you think? So just talking to different professors gave me additional perspective to go by.
In addition to giving different perspectives, there's another perk to this tour. One that only comes with a little bit of walking.
So it just gives people time that you don't necessarily have when you're on the bus. And it's more personable because I have an opportunity to stop and say, oh yeah, and look at this, right? So we're not passing things really fast. And people notice stuff all the time on the tour. They say, what does this mean? Can you talk to me a little bit about that? Those are things that can only happen on a walking tour because you're going at a slower pace and a more personable. Want to point this one out to you?
The tours cover stories you don't often hear, like Robert Black Bob Renfro. He was a quasi-independent slave who owned a popular bar. But it also revisits the stories you'll never forget. Diane Nash confronting the mayor on the steps of the courthouse, and the sit-ins at Woolworth on 5th.
Our last stop on the tour is at Woolworth on 5th, and at Woolworth on 5th, they get an opportunity to sit at the stools and sit there and reflect and think about what they learned and things like that.
You'll also hear firsthand accounts of those sit-ins and the bravery it took to pull it off.
John Lewis said he sat upstairs with a few of his colleagues, and as he was sitting here, he could hear the sounds of his colleagues downstairs being beat up. Can you imagine? So he got up, and just like we walked up those steps, he immediately began to walk down those stairs. And when he got down there, all the nonviolence resistance training that he had kicked in.
Every day, Shaquita takes a new group on tour, going up and down the streets of downtown Nashville and sharing stories from Black history. She hopes walking down memory lane will pave a better road to the future.
There is a lot of people that have difficulty having cross-cultural conversations, making cross-cultural connections, right? But when you can learn about your history or about the history of others, that kind of grounds you in this space of, this is what happened, what can I do about that to ensure that the future is this way or that way? So ultimately, I hope that the tour serves as an educational tool to expand the minds of others.